My God, I am lost. Hello, and welcome to the Button Shy 18 card game challenge.
Hi, welcome to Button Shy's 18 card challenge. This challenge was to design a role-playing game in just 18 cards. We had over 70 entries, and each one was pretty great. So, no.
This is the Altar Law deck. Another two go face down to the side. This is the Fate deck. The rest get dealt face up in a circle. Roll all the dice. Done. The 6 types of card in the game represent the 6 different actions our investigators can take. On their turn, each player chooses a die to move clockwise around the trail to a card with the same number. They then choose one card either side of where they've moved to as the action they take.
One of the really cool things that struck out to me is the way that this game determines success and failures.
To determine whether their action succeeds, they take the card on the other side of their die and shuffle it into the Fate deck. The top card is drawn, and if it is less than the number on your action card, it's a success. The player...
First it was the noise, then a sudden jolt. Now the jumps are coming faster and faster with barely enough time to know what's a fading memory or a glimpse into the future. In Astra del Rey, Escape from Tomorrow, our intrepid heroes find themselves tumbling through time and space, trying to make sense of it all.
This incredibly creative idea involves taking a comic book page and putting cards on it to change that comic book, or to use those to get prompts to write the dialogue for that comic book. In the end run, players will end up with an entire comic sheet with a full story on it, and I think that's a really good idea.
Predictable ways, and help create deep and complicated characters that will change dramatically every time you play. All the while, you will record their story by physically writing their campy dialogue and cheesy one-liners on actual comic book panels.
Players begin by answering the time that they have been sent to and where they have arrived in collectively. On a player's turn, they will take their die and they will travel one orthogonally or diagonally to another prompt. They will then answer said prompt. Once you have answered a narrative prompt on a card, you will have to make a test roll. The goal here is to do just well enough, but to not indicate that you are from another time.
For me, what was really cool about this game is that you play as time travelers who are ripped from their timeline. With each play experience, you have a different layout for the city that you play in.
Once a player has answered a prompt, say they answered 32, any future players that move to 32 who knows something will have to interact with the narrative threads that the previous player left for them.
Hiya, I'm Finn, and this is my game, The Family Dinner. In this game, you all play as members of a dysfunctional family who have to sit down and survive a dinner party together. The game is played over 6 courses, each made up of 2 ingredients. It's driven forward by these ingredient cards. At the beginning of the game, each player receives a handful of these cards, and on each card is 2 prompts. So as in the case of coffee here, it can be a wake-up call or a blow to someone who's already down. These are used to refer to events in the family's history.
The family dinner really struck a chord with me early on. I used a sheet of paper to make a family tree of all the characters that are, I guess, introduced within the story of the game.
Throughout the game, whenever a new family member is referenced, they should be added to the family tree in the middle of the table. Don't worry about making it too neat. Family is messy, and so is this tree from one of our playtests.
Each session of the good ship Lamplight tells the story of the Lamplight and its crew across multiple voyages. To start the game, each player will take a roll card, which indicates their rank on the ship, as well as an objective that defines their position. They will also draft an anchor and an impulse. Anchors represent things that bind them to home, while impulses encourage them to keep sailing.
The great thing about this game is that it had a very defined act structure with a solid end to the game, and it gave you a specific role to play. And it also had a really great setting, which was predetermined and already there for you to start playing.
Over the course of the game, players may feel that their characters have completed or neglected one of their 3 character elements, their role, anchor, or impulse. When this happens, the player pushes the appropriate card into the center of the playing area, a process known as abandonment.
I guess this is it. It's a 2-player role-playing card game about saying goodbye. In this game, players take the role of 2 people once strongly connected, standing before each other in the final minutes before their last goodbye. They will work together to try and say as much as they can before leaving, but being careful not to hurt each other's feelings.
This emotionally powerful game has an interesting linking mechanic to allow 2 players to form a connection and then immediately end that connection as these 2 characters are about to leave each other. We think that this game's emotional core and strength in its base mechanics will allow players to experience what that would truly feel like to leave. And I think I think that's exciting to try.
Marty's gonna cry.
It's really, but to be fair, part of the reason why I really like the game, and you can leave this in if you need to, is that there's something in this moment in time that seems really helpful to people, and I think that's nice,
Now I'm gonna cry.
It's a sad game. I think I've already had somebody. I explained the game to somebody, and they're like, "If we play that, I want to play it really bad, but I'm going to cry."
Memory, wish, apology, recognition. So for instance, if I connect the Fear Story card using the recognition link, I can narrate how thankful I am to the other person when they helped me overcome a deep fear I had.
In the outline, players are cast as actors in a film without a script. Instead, the director has jotted down vague notes outlining the plot points they would like the film to hit. It is up to the players to take the outline and use their creativity and improvisation expertise to turn these vague notes into a story worthy of the silver screen. To play, players will take turns revealing the top card of the deck, which will inform the following scene. The first card will always be the It Begins card. This card can be revealed by anyone and determines the player order from then on.
The outline, which was one of maybe like 3 or 4 film-based games that we saw, which might have been the biggest trend, was like 4 games that did this. What stood out about this one, and had it take the box office, was it was a very open-ended system where you came up with a genre, characters, and the cards would come out and guide you through the movie, and there were some die rolls and some lots of decision points along the way. But there were some cool spots where you would determine how somebody behaved in the scene and how they performed in the scene, and then you can give them hearts, and there's 2 different tracks that kind of escalate the game along. Overall, it felt a little bit like our game Movie Plots, but as a role-playing game.
Just don't be a Michael Scott.
Parapets is a light fantasy role-playing game focused around raising a dragon together. Inspired when playing Parapets with just these 18 cards, a few 6-sided dice, and some imagination, you'll build your own fairy tale set in a world with magic, castles and forests, outlaws and trolls, and most importantly, dragons.
This absolutely adorable game stood out to us due to its interesting theme and its wonderful recreation of fairy tale myths and cool ideas about building characters and playing the game with kids, as it's one of the few that was designed for that purpose. And also, it allows you to cuddle dragons. Who doesn't want to cuddle a dragon?
The story alongside the wizard in the castle. At the beginning of the round, we'll put a guard card face down at the bridge and a growth card face down next to the dragon. Then, from the remaining 10 cards, we'll each decide on 3 cards that make up our pack, the things we're bringing to our dragon pet.
Shades of Ink is a card-driven solo role-playing game where you'll interpret psychological inkblot tests and write about what you see. You'll then use an increasing array of abilities and clever hand manipulation to battle the spirits that manifest from within. Let's take a look. The game starts with a diary entry, which helps to create your character and set the scene for the events that unfold.
Shades of Ink hits a really interesting spot for me because it's very much tabletop, like a tabletop, a regular tabletop game, and it hits that role-playing notes in just how this story comes out as you're playing the game. But it has a really cool system where cards line up and you get 2 words, I believe it's 2 words, and you get the first half on one card and then the second half on the other, and it sort of forms all your prompts and things like that. And it has a great character. I guess it's sort of like a character sheet. It has a great sheet, like a player sheet, where you start to fill in things that it almost feels like a Mad Lib at some points. But the whole thing's about ink blots and the things that emerge from these abstract images. So
It's also our only solo-focused game.
in the top 10.
Yeah, in the top 10.
That's good. It's solo. Solo only.
Solo only.
Yeah. Which is appealing.
Yeah. But there's an appeal to it.
I will play this role-playing game.
Oh no. What have I done?
Allow me to set the scene. You and your party of robots are investigating a murder at the San Francisco Zoo in the 1980s. So far, your investigation has included some relatively normal stuff, like going to the actual scene of the crime and taking a look there, as well as some less normal stuff, like that one time your friend decided it would be a good idea to pour a slushie on a security guard. Anyways, that has all gotten you to the point where you are now in the polar bear enclosure, which the polar bears are not very happy about, and as such begin charging straight at you and your group. It is your turn to act, and you can only do one of 3 things. Sign, debate, or vote.
This game had a great action system in which characters are given a certain role, but the only actions they're capable of doing change as the game goes along. This creates some fun, interesting scenarios and keeps it nice and easy for players of all stripes and experiences.
The actions on the top are the ones you can do. So in this case here, I can sign, debate, or vote. It is then your job to take these actions and somehow make something happen.
And that was our top 10. Thanks everyone for their designs. And we will be announcing the contest winner on August 31st. Right?
Yes.
Great. Yes, on August 31st.